The beauty and challenge of European skiing is known throughout the world, and perhaps best exemplified in this Austrian Tyrolean town of Kitzbühel, the site of the 1967 Hahnenkamm ski races. For the racers and thousands of fans here this week, Kitzbühel offers some of Europe's best skiing as well as most entertaining nightlife. And to ski buffs around the world, the only place to be on Hahnenkamm weekend is the Guido Reich. The scenic beauty of Kitzbühel provides a truly picturesque setting on a weekend of perfect weather. I'm Bob Beatty. All the great ski races are here in this Hahnenkamm this year. Jean-Claude Killy from France, his teammate Guy Perriard, of course Karl Schranz and Gerhard Nenning, always tough in Austria, as they are everywhere else. And now with our own Jimmy Hugo doing very well in slalom over here, and a very promising young Dennis Mccoy, who's been very flashy in downhill so far. It promises to be one of the strongest fields that's ever competed in this great Hahnenkamm event. Attention is focused right now at the top of the downhill course as the skiers go through the final moments of preparation and adjustment to equipment. This is the tense moment before the start of the event. And right now in the starting gate we have the great Austrian champion, Karl Schranz.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And Schranz is the first racer and opens this 1967 Hahnenkamm downhill event. For purposes of covering this downhill race, our cameras are located on the top third and bottom third of the course. Here we have Schranz on the very steep upper part, very tricky with tough turns and steep transitions. Keep in mind now that Schranz, as he comes into this style hung, won this event last year and has a new Hahnenkamm record which he's trying to protect of 2:16.6. And here as he goes onto the road, we'll go back to the start and pick up his teammate, Heini Messner.
4, 3, 2, 1. Look.
Now here as Messner starts down the course, keep in mind that Schranz is still on the middle section, but these are roads, and we'll pick up Karl again on the bottom third, the final third of the course, in a few moments. And here as we see Messner catch a little air on the mouse volley, come down and make this first big right-hand turn, which is very important to hit well. You can see his skis wobble just a little bit, and those wobbling skis will lose a little bit of time. Now on the style hung, and it's very important to carry the speed, because this speed is going to have to carry him onto the road where we just saw Schranz go out of sight. Here's Messner onto the road, and here comes Karl Schranz on the bottom third of the course. Schranz looking very relaxed, very supple. Notice how loose he is in his knees and ankles. Carrying speeds of about 65 to 70 miles an hour now as he enters the final part, the Zielschuss, the finish shush as they call it in Austria. Here he comes with a very good time as he comes into this final section. Will he be able to break his old Hahnenkamm record of 2:16.6? Across the finish gate, and a new Hahnenkamm record by the first racer down the course, Karl Schranz, in 2:16.2. Being now congratulated by many Austrians at the finish area. And now his teammate, Heini Messner, comes into the final section, the bottom third of the course. Messner's had an outstanding year this year. He won the first slalom race in Berchtesgaden, Germany. Hasn't been a good slalom racer before, but has always been known more as a downhiller. And here he comes. It looks as though he was a little bit ahead of Schranz as he came over the rise. And now Heini Messner trying to beat his countryman, Karl Schranz, coming into the final area. Can he beat Schranz's time of 2:16.2? Yes, and he did. 2:15.6. A new first place finisher now in this early running of the Hahnenkamm downhill event. Heini Messner of Austria. Now in the starting gate, we have the great Austrian Gerhard Nenning, who was second last year to Karl Schranz.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, los!
Nenning at 27 is a veteran of many years of Austrian racing. Has been on the national team since 1959. Very smooth in downhill, very strong. You'll notice how smooth he takes these turns. This is the trademark of Nenning, and he always does well in the Hahnenkamm. It's very fast in this section right here, and you'll notice the skiers having trouble holding on to this icy section as Gerhard Nenning goes onto the road and back into the start, and now the great Jean-Claude Killy, fresh from his downhill victory in Wengen, Switzerland last week.
10 Sekunden. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, los!
And there's no doubt about it, Killy has been one of the great surprises of the season over here. Not a surprise after his World Championship performance in Portillo, Chile last year, but that he would come back and capture the first downhill race of the year and now go after this one again has certainly confused many of the Austrians who thought that they owned this event prior to Killy's coming onto the scene. Killy will try to ride these skis and hold his speed as he goes onto the road, and now we're going to pick up Gerhard Nenning on the bottom third of the course as he comes down into the finish area. Keep in mind now that Nenning had an outstanding time last year and has always done well in this Hahnenkamm downhill event. His hands went up in the air then, and of course that means he'll catch a little wind in his chest, and he needs all the speed he can get and needs to be streamlined as he comes into this final area. Here he comes now. A good time so far for Gerhard Nenning. Remember, Messner is in first place, and Nenning will be trying to beat him. 2:15.6 is Messner's time. As he comes through at 2:15.6, officially though at 2:15.68, which will put him 3/100ths of a second behind his teammate, Heine Messner. And now into the final area comes Jean-Claude Killy, and we've just received word that his halftime is almost 2 seconds ahead of the leader Messner's. A fantastic run so far for Jean-Claude Killy as he comes in to the final third of the course. Jean-Claude Killy, the phenomenon, he almost fell there, but got back on his skis and made a nice recovery. And so far as he comes into sight, it looks like he's got a great time and will most certainly break this Hahnenkamm record, which is now set by Heine Messner at 2:15.6. A fantastic time of 2:11.9 for Jean-Claude Killy, almost 4.5 seconds ahead of the old Hahnenkamm record. A phenomenal finish for Jean-Claude Killy of France. Now in the starting gate, the 1964 Olympic downhill champion, Egon Zimmermann of Austria. Zimmermann's been recovering from an automobile accident suffered after the Olympics and is just starting to regain the top form that captured him the Olympic downhill as he sails off the Mouse Folly and down this steep section before he comes into the style hump. At one time, Zimmermann was known as the most feared downhill racer in the world. You can see he kicked up a little spray of snow, and this is dangerous because that means that those skis are edging a little bit and sliding sideways. As he goes onto the road, and we're back at the start now with young Dennis Mccoy, 21-year-old University of Denver student. Mccoy making his second start at the Hahnenkamm after having been here last year. His father, the ski area owner of Mammoth Mountain, California, and coach Dave Mccoy, as Dennis takes a lot of air off the Mouse Folly, which will cost him a little bit of time. Now the racers must try to keep on the ground and keep their skis on the snow. When they're in the air, this means they'll catch some wind, and this will slow them down. And here we have Mccoy on the style hung as he tries to carry as much speed into this long road. And now on the bottom third of the course, here comes Egon Zimmermann. Zimmermann trying to hold his tuck position, looking very smooth. Had to stand up a little bit there. This will certainly cause him a little bit of time. And now he comes down into the final finish shush A little bit behind, I think, at this point, the time of Jean-Claude Killy, who is now our leader, with Heine Messner in second place.
55,6, Zwischenzeit für Dennis Mccoy. Und dem Ziel nähert sich Egon Zimmermann. Er hat 2,12, 13, 14, 2, 15.
And Egon Zimmerman under the finish line with a very good time of 2:16.0, which will now put him in fourth position. And now under the final third of the course, the young American, Dennis Poncho Mccoy. McCoy was the brightest American ski racer in the race in Switzerland last week and has looked very good in training. A little sideward slip there cost him a little bit of time. Now as he comes into the final shush, trying to carry all of his speed, came out of his tuck just a little bit. A good time so far by Dennis McCoy, but not quite with that of the early leaders. Under the finish gate at 2:17.4 for Dennis McCoy, a good time for the young American. In the starting gate now, the surprising young German, 21-year-old architect student from Munich, Germany, Franz Vogler. Vogler, 6'4", 215 pounds. Very large for a downhill ski racer. Carries a lot of speed off the mouse volley. Vogler was the surprise of the World Championships in Portillo, Chile this past summer when he finished second in the downhill after having to pay his own way to make the trip to Portillo. As you can see here, he's not very smooth in these turns, but makes a lot of speed when he's going straight. Into the middle section of the course, and here we have Jean-Claude Killy signing autographs, an apparent winner in this Hahnenkamm event at the bottom of the course. A phenomenal finish for Jean-Claude Killy. And here we have Vogler coming into the final section, and we've just had word that his halftime is almost equal to that of Jean-Claude Killy. We could have an upset here with Franz Vogler of Munich, Germany, 6'4", 215 pounds, coming into the final shush area. Here he comes. He's doing quite well, having trouble staying in his tuck as he comes down here, but with that great weight and momentum, it's bound to gain him speed. His time looks good. It looks as though he's fallen a little bit behind Killy on the turns coming into the final shush, but here he comes. Can he beat the time of Jean-Claude Killy? 2:11.9 is the time he has to beat. 2:13.2 for Franz Vogler, putting him in second place, ahead of Heine Messner, who now slips to third place. This has indeed been a tremendous Hahnenkamm downhill. Hold it. Trouble up on the course with Ulf Ekström of Finland, losing some control. And it's a dramatic fall for the youngster from Finland. Our official IBM CBS scoreboard shows Killy leading the field in the final results. So Jean-Claude Killy wins the Hahnenkamm downhill. We'll have the first run of the slalom event in just a moment. And now for the first run of the slalom here at the Hahnenkamm in Kitzbühel, Austria. And it's Guy Perriat of France out of the starting gate to open the slalom event. Perriat now is the slalom champion of the world, having won this at Portillo, Chile this past summer. Very supple, very quick, 5'6". Been on the French team for many years. In 1960, he was the all-round world champion. 1961, he won almost every European downhill and combined championship held. Very, very quick, cat-like reflexes in this slalom, much more different now than the downhill event, where the racer has to go through the gates in much more acrobatic maneuvers. Remember now that the racer in slalom can go around the poles. 57.4 for Guy Perriat. The great French champion, Guy Perriat of France. Out of the starting gate, Louis Geoffrey, another Frenchman, third in the World Championships this past summer in Chile. And Geoffrey, at 25, has come on strong in the last few years as a slalom specialist on the French team. Didn't join the team until after the Innsbruck Olympics in 1964. Had a little trouble right there. Doesn't look quite as quick as Perrier did. Keep in mind now that Perrier had a time of 57.4. In slalom now we have 2 runs. The racers have first the first one, then they climb back up, learn the course, and run a different one for the second one. And it's their combined times which tell the story. We're watching now Louis Geoffrey. He's having a pretty good run. 57.4 was Perrier's time. Here he comes, 57.0, and Louis Geoffrey of France takes the lead.
Up.
And now Karl Schranz has just left the starting gate. Schranz not at all happy with his downhill performance, which put him in 6th position, and is going to try to get back some of that lost esteem in his native Austria. It's tough to lose here at the Hahnenkamm when you're an Austrian, particularly with this deep rivalry between the French and the Austrians, and more so between Killy and Schranz. It looks though Schranz is going all out. Notice the way Schranz holds his hands high above his head. This is a peculiarity of his style. He holds those hands in front of him so that they won't hook gates and won't pull him back. Here he comes now. Karl Schranz trying to beat 57.0, and he does. 56.2 for Karl Schranz, and he's our new leader. Karl Schranz in first place. Louis Geoffrey now with 57.0 slips to second, and Guy Perrier is now in third place. And here he is, Karl Schranz, the great Austrian champion.
Up.
Out of the start now, Jean-Claude Killy, the winner in the downhill. Trying to have a good first run, but not be too reckless. Keeping in mind that there's a second run of slalom to come, and it's the combined times which either tell the story of a winner or a loser. And the racer wants to be sure he doesn't have a fall in this first one. Killy, very acrobatic, very quick and cat-like in his movements. Very flamboyant in his style, both on and off skis. He'll be trying to beat Schranz's time of 56.2. Very quick, uses his arms, plants his pole, pushes off. Here he comes down into the finish area with a good time. Can he do it? He does. 56.1, the new leader, Jean-Claude Killy. Killy is also leading for the World Cup Championships. And now out of the starting gate, Bengt-Erik Gran, the flamboyant Swede. Bengt-Erik Gran led after the first run in the World Championships in Chile this summer by nearly 2 seconds, only to fall very near the bottom on the second run. He always goes all out, attacks the course at all times, is very quick in his movements. Unfortunately for Bengt, he usually has a fall in one of his 2 runs, and this has been the pattern that he's set so far in Europe this winter. You can see how quick he is. He doesn't spare anything in getting down the course. Of course, he sacrifices a little bit. Every time he goes all out, the chances of error become greater. Here he comes down into the finish. Bengt-Erik Gran, our leader now, is Jean-Claude Killy with 56.1. Bengt-Erik Gran of Sweden, 57.5, which puts him now in 5th position.
Up.
Now, Hugo Nindo of Austria, injured last year in Chile with a dislocated shoulder, operated on earlier in the year, and this is his first start of the season. Hugo Nindo of Austria, trying to make a comeback after being out of the early season races. And he looks a little off balance there. He loses his pole as he tries to catch it on, gets it back under control. Lost some time in so doing. Oh, and he hooks a gate with his inside tip and falls, and that will put him out of the race. Let's go back now and take a look at Hugo Nindo in slow motion and see where he hooked this tip. There you can see him hook his inside tip on the pole and falls. The racers get very close to those poles all the time. Now let's take a look at the mastery of Jean-Claude Killy in the same section, and notice how supple he is in his maneuvers as we see him here in slow motion. Notice how his knees press into the hill as he keeps himself always squarely planted over his skis. Close to the poles, the mastery of Killy. And now Jimmy Hugo of the United States out of the starting gate. Last week in Wengen, Switzerland, Jimmy Hugo was second after the first run and had a great chance to win the famous Laberhorn event, only to fall midway in the second run. A disappointment for Jimmy, but he'll try to make it back up here today. Hugo was sixth in the World Championships last year in Chile, has started off skiing very well this year in Europe. He looks a little bit stiff here in the upper part of the course. Jimmy's had a little trouble with his first runs the last year or so, not going quite fast enough, and then coming on with a great second one to pull him up in the standings. But you need that great first one to stay with the leaders. And here comes Jimmy Hugo into the finish line. 58.9, and this will put him a little bit below the leaders, but in sixth position. Out of the starting gate, Georges Mauduit of France. Great giant slalom skier, and you saw him hook a gate there with his, looked like it hit his head. Georges Mauduit, reckless, skiing down the course. And it looks as though he picked up a little bit of blood on his face there, probably when he hit his head on the pole earlier in the course. Now we can see the blood showing on Mauduit's face. It looks like Georges Mauduit from France has been hurt, but still skiing miraculously down the course here with blood trickling from his eye. Georges Mauduit having a hard time making it through as he battles through these final gates with a time of 59.4 for Georges Mauduit of France, moving him into seventh position, and it looks as though George is hurt. Mauduit, who looked like he hit his head on the pole earlier in the course, and obviously his eye is all right. It's just on the side of his eye as blood trickles. Let's take a look now, back up the hill in slow motion to see where George hit his head. And there we see it right there where the pole slapped him on his face, and then he miraculously made it down the course. A great exhibition of courage and fortitude by the young Frenchman. Once again, it's a great first run of slalom for Jean-Claude Killy. Karl Schranz has just put in one of his best runs of the early season, and in this second run, it's going to be Karl Schranz trying to come out on top, and of course the French trying to make it a 1-2-3 finish with Geoffrey and Perrier, who are now following in third and fourth position. We'll be back with the second run of slalom in just a moment. International spectators await the action here as the second run of the slalom gets underway with Carlos Anona of Italy. Carlos Anona was the world champion, a surprise world champion in Chile this past summer. A few years ago, Anona broke both legs in a skiing accident. Before that, broke another leg. Has had a miraculous recovery to lead his Italian team to its first gold medal since 1958. Skiing very well, very fluid, Carlos Anona leading this second run of this international Hahnenkamm event in Kitzbühel. Notice how close Anona gets to the poles. Remember, the racer can touch his back to the pole, can brush the pole, just as long as both feet go through. He can even knock the poles over as long as his feet go between them. But he can't straddle them. Here he comes into the finish area, Carlos Anona, with a time of 57.2, and this will put him in the lead as the first racer down in the second run. And here's Jimmy Hugo of the United States. He'll need a time of 56.7 to take the lead from Carlos Anona. Jimmy Hugo, along with his teammates, are training here in Europe now along with many of their other Americans who are training at home under programs sponsored by the United States Ski Association. You can support this year-round development program, which helps thousands of youngsters ski race, by contributing to the U.S. Ski Team Fund at U.S. Ski Team Day on February 18th at your local ski area. Now we have Jimmy Hugo on the course, a rather slow first run, but trying to make up time for his second one. A little bit faster, a little bit livelier, and more dynamic as he tries to take the lead from Carlos Anona. Remember, he needs a time of 56.7 as he comes into the finish area. 57.6, not quite enough to take the lead. A combined time of 1:16.5 for Jimmy Hugo. Anona with 1:15.7 is now in the lead. Hugo now in second place. Jimmy Hugo of the United States. And now Bengt Derek Gran, who had one of the fastest times in the first run. He's a time of 57.0 to take the lead from Carlos Anona of Italy. Gran, the Swede, trying to put two runs together, has had trouble with one of his two runs all year. Here he's going all out to try to take this Hahnenkamm event. Notice how recklessly Gran skis, always going all out. Very close to the pole, which is why he has so many falls. Has had a tendency to hook gates. Gran is from northern Finland in Lapland, and here he comes into the finish area. Looks like he has an outstanding time, keeping his rhythm going very nicely, very quiet and very smooth on the snow. Very quick and agile. Remember, Gran needs a time of 57.0 to take the lead. Here he comes into the finish area with a time of 56.7, and we have a new leader in this Hahnenkamm slalom event, Bengt Erik Gran of Sweden. And now Carlos Anona has been moved to second place, and look at those happy Swedes. Remember, Jean-Claude Killy and Karl Schranz are still on the course, and they're led in the first run. But Gran will have given them something to think about as they stand up there waiting for that starting signal. And here in the gate is Jean-Claude Killy of France, presently the greatest ski racer in the world. Won the slalom in Wengen, Switzerland, won the downhill in Wengen, Switzerland, won the downhill here in the Hahnenkamm. Now trying to add the slalom event to make it 4 in a row. He had to think about protecting his lead for the combined, but with Schranz beating down his neck, it's an all-out run for Killy. This is the only style that Killy knows how, always on the brink of disaster. Killy only needs a time of 58.1 to take the lead from Bengt Erik Gran. Gran has a total time of 1:14.3. And Killy's having a great run as he comes into the finish area. Here he comes. A fantastic time of 55.9. It'll give him a total of 1:12.0 and will put him more than 2 seconds ahead of Bengt Erik Gran, who now moves to second, with Carlos Anona in third and Jimmy Hugo of the United States fourth. A great French skier, a great champion, Jean-Claude Killy, emerging as the all-time great skier, now with 4 victories almost within reach, but Karl Schranz still at the top, still with a chance to try to catch him. Now we have Schranz. He was a 1/10 of a second behind Killy in the first run, and he's going to try to go all out. He wasn't very happy with his downhill performance, and he's going to try to make up for it here in the second run of the slalom. Schranz will need a time of 55.7 to take the lead from Killy. A few days ago, I had a chance to talk with Karl and discussed his poor early season form, which he attributes to working so much on his hotel, which he's building in his hometown of St. Anton, Austria. Felt that he had very little training and was not able to concentrate properly on ski racing. And here at 29 years of age is Karl Schranz, a great Austrian champion, trying to make a comeback in the second run of the Hahnenkamm event and going all out. Notice how he works with his poles, planting one and then the other, trying to reach for every bit of strength, every bit of speed as he comes down this final area, trying to catch Killy. Remember, he needs a time of 55.7 to do it. He was 1/10 of a second behind in the first run. And here comes Schrantz whirling towards the finish gate. Under the finish banner, 58.2, not enough to catch Jean-Claude Killy, and this will move him behind Bengt Derek Gran. And into third place. Karl Schrantz, not enough in this second run, a great first run, and now in the starting gate, Louis Geoffrey of France. Geoffrey was only 5/100ths of a second behind Schrantz in the first run, 1.5 of a second behind Killy. He needs a time of 54.8 to take the lead from his countryman, Jean-Claude Killy. Geoffrey from the French Pyrenees, developing fast as one of the great slalom racers. Third in the World Championships in Chile, and he's making good time as he gets very close to the poles, cutting down the radius of his turns. Watch him plant his poles and bang those arms into the hill. This is the trademark of the French, great aggressiveness, and here comes Geoffrey into the finish area. 57.4, which will give him a total time of 1:14.48, and will move him now into fourth place, right behind Karl Schrantz. Here comes the great French champion, Guy Perriat. Second in the World Championships in Chile this past summer, behind Carlos Anona of Italy. Very, very aggressive. Perriat needs a time of 54.4 to catch Killy, or to go by Killy. Great rivalry amongst these French racers. If it isn't one, it's another, and they can keep banging down that hill, literally throwing themselves at those gates. They've changed the course of world skiing with their aggressive style. Whereas a few years ago it used to be the rounded, more controlled turns of the Austrians, now it's the wild, all-out skiing of the French. Remember, 54.4 is what Perriat needs to take the lead. And through the area of the finish at 57.2, which will give him a total time of 1:14.7. And this will move Guy Perriat into fifth place. Our official IBM CBS scoreboard again shows Jean-Claude Killy leading the field in the final results of the 1967 Hahnenkamm slalom event here in Kitzbühel, Austria. We'll be back to chat with this great French champion in just a moment following this message. Fantastic run today by Jean-Claude Killy in winning the combined as well as the slalom and the downhill. Jean, it's been a great couple of weekends for you.
Yeah, pretty good, huh? I ski well this year.
Today in the slalom, what were you a little surprised with Karl Schrantz being so close after that first run?
Oh, no, because I wasn't very fast in the first run. I was much faster on the second.
Well, were you thinking a little bit about the combined in the first run? Or?
In the first run, yes, but not at all in the second.
Why do you feel that you've progressed so much in downhill?
Well, you know, I was world championship in downhill, and which I think is normal. I'm skiing good in that specialty now.
Do you think that you're a little stronger than you used to be physically? Has that made a difference?
Yeah, I'm in good shape this year. I'm very strong.
How about in your training? Did you do anything differently there?
No, a lot of free ski, you know, in the powder snow and just free like that.
Well, Jean, we're going to be looking forward to seeing you in March in the United States, and I know with the rest of your French teammates.
Yes, it will be a good pleasure for us all, and by the way, I want to say hello to Billy and hope he's getting better and we will ski again together.
Well, I know he'll be looking forward to seeing you in France next year. Thank you, Jean-Claude Killy. Killy, the combined champion and World Cup leader, referred, of course, to Billy Kidd. And so another Hahnenkamm ski race is history. And this one is the story of Jean-Claude Killy. His great downhill victory yesterday, followed by another one today in the slalom. He's having one of the great years of any ski racer in the history of our sport, and at 23, looks like he'll dominate it for a long time. As we leave Kitzbühel, Austria, a reminder that later today on the CBS Sports Spectacular, Jack Whitaker will show you film clips of Cassius Clay Floyd Patterson and Sonny Liston in their Golden Gloves days. But first, let's join Jack and Mary Rose for the Swimming Diving Championships at the Swimming Hall of Fame in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We'll be back with more ski action here in Kitzbühel, Austria, after this pause for station identification.